During World War II, Japanese troops invaded French-ruled Vietnam and quickly defeated the French and took over. However, after the war, due to France's defeat, Vietnam was left an independent country. During Japanese rule, Ho Chi Minh of revolutions in Vietnam led his people during the Japanese invasion. After the Japanese left, he created the Declaration of Independence of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam based on the US's own Declaration of Independence. Minh had visited the US and was influenced by the US's own ideals such as all men are created equal. During the French-Vietnamese War, in which the French decided to take over Vietnam once again, Minh asked for the US to aid against the French, for he considered the revolution to be similar to that of the US and Britain. The US, however, aided the French. After World War II, the French decided to retake once controlled Vietnam, resulting in the French-Vietnamese War. The outcome of the French-Vietnamese War resulted in the Republic of Vietnam successfully defeating the French and gaining their independence. However, this was only the beginning of an even bigger conflict. Due to Ho Chi Minh's communist ideals, Vietnam was divided into two sides, resulting in a civil war among the North, who wanted communists, and the South, which didn't. The US quickly began to support South Vietnam in their fight against communism by providing air support. However, many senators such as Thomas J. Dodd called upon President Johnson for more military involvement. In his speech to the Senate, Dodd compares communism in Vietnam to Hitler's appeasement and states how Chamberlain warned against the possibility of World War II, which in this case was the worldwide spread of communism. Soon the decision came in and called for ground troops deployment to Vietnam, resulting in the Vietnam War. Once the war had begun, many US citizens had a misconception of why we had even gotten involved in Vietnam. So the Department of State ushered the White Papers, public documents in which they stated that the US was fighting to stop the spread of communism, as well as informed the public that North Vietnam was receiving their weapons from communist superpowers, Russia and China. However, the White Papers only caused more havoc among the people due to the journalist I.F. Stone's reply, in which he criticizes the lack of evidence the paper provided for their claim of communists providing weapons, as well as claims through statistics that the Viet Cong were stealing the weapons they had from US soldiers. Many public figures such as Martin Luther King Jr. joined the protests against the war and argued that the US should not be fighting the Vietnam War in foreign land when they were too busy fighting their own, referring to the civil rights events of the time. After the release of the Pentagon Papers, protests against the war only increased and urged for the US to return the troops from Vietnam. Following the events of the 10 holidays, President Johnson released his State of the Union and states that he will halt the bombing of North Vietnam in hopes of peace negotiations. He then goes on to state that he will not be running for a second presidential term.
I shall not seek, and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president.
After the presidential election, Richard M. Nixon took office and quickly stopped the halt and continued bombing North Vietnam as well as secretly Cambodia. After his second re-election as president, he gave a speech called Vietnamization, in which he informs the public of his plan to return the troops from Vietnam. By 1974, President Nixon's plan took effect and pulled almost all ground troops from Vietnam, officially ending the Vietnam War and all US involvement in Vietnam.